Right, what we'll do, we haven't got too many people here, so we'll just kick off with a quick introduction for things, and then we'll go on to Jenny, if that's okay with you, Jenny. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. So I don't suppose you've got very much to say because nothing's been happening in the mortgages, is it?
Really quite a couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah. Right, let's just quickly go on to this and we'll get this done and out of the way. Just very, very quickly, some changes which have come up recently. You all hopefully should be aware that this new carbon monoxide alarm started October the 1st, Saturday. They're not particularly complicated. All they are saying is you must now have a working carbon monoxide alarm in every room with gas. Before it was solid fuel heating only. It's now solid fuel heating, i.e. wood burning stoves, open fires, etc., and gas, apart from where there's a gas cooker. Now, I don't understand why either. So it's a really old one, that one. We know about we know about the budget energy cost capped, etc. They've introduced a rent freeze and eviction moratorium in Scotland. Will that come here? We've been told no, it won't. A couple of new housing ministers there. Simon Clarke is the Secretary of State. We did get, hang on, just got someone else coming in. We did have an actual housing minister for all of a day, I think it was, and then he resigned. So Andrew Stevenson, who's actually a parliamentary Under Secretary of State, so he's not a minister. He's taken on the PRS now. So we had a meeting with DLUC, which is what they now call themselves. So the Department of Levelling Up, etc., last week. I asked them, do they know who their boss is now? They're a bit confused, I think. So Robert Jenrick, who was a previous housing minister, has gone to health. There's a consultation which ends very soon, actually, October the 14th, on the decent home standards. So that's been on our weekly email. There's rumours of a crackdown on holiday lets Airbnb, so don't know if that's going to affect mortgages at all. I'm sure we'll hear about that. Brighton talking about banning second homes, but that's only for new builds. So they're going to introduce something whereby any new build will have to have something in the lease that precludes it from being a second home or a holiday home. Just to quickly remind you about right to remain, that's changed as well, in that the COVID extension is now finished. That finished again at the beginning of October. So if you've got a BRP, a biometric residential pass, which is one of those that must be checked online, you used to be able to check everything online. You now have to go back to the old way of doing it. So if they are willing to let you use what they call the IDVT, Identification Document Validation Technology, you will need to have their date of birth and a share code. Right, I think that's it. So let's just stop sharing there. Right, okay. Jenny, away you go. You've got till 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week or so for us. So in the mortgage market, what have we seen? So just to kind of go back a little bit. So interest rates have been going up for quite some time now. I think when I've been on the spoken to you guys more recently, we'd have talked about this. And the reason that interest rates were climbing is because of inflation. So we were in a kind of an increasing interest rate environment anyway. Then what happened was we had the mini budget. The market went into a massive frenzy because of obviously Liz Truss announcing and Kwasi Kwarteng announcing tax cuts where they had no real kind of plans or defined published plans in terms of how they were going to really pay for these things. So what happened then was that the swap rates, which are the rates at which banks send each other money on the wholesale money markets, leapt right up. So to give you some context, a year ago, swap rates were about 0.4%. They've been going up, up, up. We're at 3.8. A month ago, we're early fours in the last few weeks. And after the mini budget, they went up to over 5.3%. So the market essentially, when banks are looking at where they think interest rates are going to go, we're clearly expecting a really big step up in the Bank of England base rate. So because the money market became incredibly volatile in terms of pricing, and the swap rates were bouncing around sort of between 4.9 and 5.3, the lenders obviously took the decision that it was too difficult to know where to price money in the current environment. As a lender, what you don't really want to be doing is putting rates on 1 minute and putting them the next minute. It's bad for everybody in that regard. It's bad for, the borrowers. It's not great for brokers. Everyone's had a bad experience. So what a lot of lenders decided to do was essentially put a pause on their fixed rate offering, let the market settle, and then they would come back in again once things had calmed down. So as of the back end of last week, I was really expecting a lot of new fixed rates to come to market sort of today, tomorrow. We did see the mortgage works come back with some new pricing. It's pretty, well, it feels quite expensive. I think we're going to all manage our expectations in terms of what expensive feels like now going forwards. But the mortgage works did come out with some new rates, which was great. But because we've now had this retraction on the tax cut for the 45p in the pound, news this morning, the money markets have now started moving around again. This time swap rates have started coming back down. So whereas we were thinking we were going to see new fixed rates come out early this week, I think what we're now going to see is, because there's more volatility, obviously in a kind of good way for borrowers, but things are now bouncing around and going downwards, we probably won't see many new rates come out until the end of this week, probably early next. So that's kind of where we are. So nothing to kind of be uber worried about in terms of, are they going to be fixed rates? There will be fixed rates. The banks have got a huge appetite to lend. That hasn't gone away. The banks are really well capitalized, so they've got money to lend. So some people are saying, oh, it's really reminds me of the credit crisis. It's nothing like the credit crisis. Very, very different environment. The only thing that's been similar is just seeing lenders pull things very rapidly, but the difference is they'll be coming back in very rapidly as well. So where's this going to leave us in terms of pricing? It is quite hard to say at the moment. I think realistically, what we're probably going to be seeing for sort of standard transactions, this is an individual with a relatively small portfolio, so less than 10 buy-to-let on a standard property, so not HMOs, not multi-units, anything like that. You're probably going to see 5-year rates from about 4%. Variable products, I think, will be from about 2.5%. In the limited company space, I'm expecting 5-year fixed rates to be from 5.4 and variables from about 3.5. That's kind of the new pricing at the moment. Again, this could change, and we are waiting for things to come out. So it does feel decidedly more expensive than we have talked about, unfortunately, in recent months, I'm afraid. Now, in terms of what's going to happen going forward, so I still think there is still a likelihood that interest rates are going to go up. There's still expectations that base rate will continue to rise from here on in. Most recent speculation was 6% by the middle of next year. With this more recent news, that might have softened slightly, but the expectation is still an upward, direction of travel, whichever way you dice things up. So I think really what we're saying to people is that, particularly in the sort of arena of remortgaging, because mortgage offers can be valid for up to 6 months, and because it takes around 2 months to get a mortgage offer, in theory, if you have a rate ending in up to the next 8 months, now's not too early to apply for a rate and try and secure things on today's pricing rather than leaving it and paying what's going to be available then. The other really unfortunate consequence of this repricing that we're seeing is the rental calculation. So I'm sure you guys have all come across this in the past. The lenders use a rental calculation to determine if the mortgage is essentially affordable, and this is based on a kind of combination of the rental income and assumed rents, and then margin for leaving you enough money to cover things like rental voids and repairs to property. So because some lenders were able to do a calculation which was based on the fixed rate, the 5-year fixed rate you would have been taking, what's happened is because interest rates have increased, that calculation has become more punitive, essentially, for some deals. So I just did a quick calculation before we came online, and I think that if someone was getting £1,000 in rent per month, on some of the rates that we had versus now, you would be able to borrow £70,000 less. So it will have a big knock-on impact in terms of how much people can actually borrow on their mortgages, and that's the kind of unintended consequence of this that I think a lot of people haven't quite realised is in the ether as well. So beyond all that really good news, there is nothing really major going on with the lenders in terms of criteria changes. So I know that Peter alluded to the sort of potential change in view of Airbnbs. Lenders are just so distracted at the moment in terms of dealing with the huge floods of business they've had come in, the situation with the pricing on the market. There is a nervousness, kind of, a little bit of noise in the background in terms of house prices as well. So I think really in terms of that kind of more micro elements of their criteria being impacted. We haven't seen any changes recently. I think that will change as time goes on, but at the moment there hasn't really been, they just haven't got to it yet, I suppose. That's everything. Sorry, it's not very good news, is it?
Well, that was a quick whiz through. Well done on all that. Something else I saw the other day was because it's taking so long now to complete purchases, some people are finding their offers timed out before they can finish their purchase. Are you finding that?
Yeah, it's a really difficult time actually. So there's a couple of things at play here. So traditionally what would happen is a mortgage offer is valid for normally between 3 or 6 months. And what would happen is if for some reason the borrower couldn't quite get to the deadline of the mortgage offer, most lenders were very happy to extend that offer either by a couple of weeks or even longer if needed. What the lenders are now saying is actually because you're borrowing an interest rate which is based on rates 4 months ago when they are significantly lower to where they are now, we're simply not prepared to extend mortgage offers. So if your mortgage offer has lapsed, we're prepared to give you an extension of your offer, but on a new today rate rather than the old rate. So it's really kind of leaving people in a very difficult position because so many of the lawyers are so incredibly busy also. A lot of them simply can't get to things in time. So there is some real challenges in that regard. I mean, the other thing you might have heard some people talking about is lenders pulling offers, just pulling the offers even before they've expired. And we have seen that happen on a few occasions. The problem that some lenders have is where they're, again, going back to this, we applied for the mortgage 3 or 4 months ago, the pricing has moved on so much. If the lender were to complete on that deal, they would simply lose money on it. And that's the reality of it. And lenders can't necessarily afford to be losing money on millions and millions of pounds worth of debt. They have to be profitable, otherwise they just won't carry on lending. So we have had a couple of lenders who unfortunately have said that anything that's not gone to offer yet, we're going to pull those cases. We'll continue underwriting, but it's going to be on a new rate. So it's not great. I think we won't find that from the kind of high street institutions who are balance sheet funded. And what that means is that they have people who are savers, the thing like a NatWest, a Nationwide. So these guys are using savers money to lend back out, and so they're just having to pay interest to their savers. But a lot of those guys are reliant on the wholesale money market, where the pricing, when the deal completes, so it's a kind of current state of pricing, it rolls on. So they're much more open to the volatility in the markets, and these are the guys who are having to sometimes withdraw mortgage deals.
Yeah, no, as you say, it's all interesting times. So the thing very much seems to be that if you're buying, you need to be on to whoever's doing your conveyancing every single day, don't you?
Yeah.
But otherwise, it will just get forgotten about and drop down.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any other comments on EPC ratings, or was that sort of dropped through at the moment as well? So
yeah, I feel like at the moment, yeah, it's not. I mean, we were getting some really good traction on the kind of green agenda with the lenders for quite some time. So different lenders were thinking about how we're going to support landlords. I think because it has just been, I mean, I'm really not exaggerating. It has been busy since January because of all the kind of knock on from COVID stamp duty holiday, and it's kind of just all pushed everything through. So we've got less green mortgages available than we had at the start of the year because
really?
Yeah, because the green mortgages offer a lower rate of interest, and because the margins are so delicate at the moment, what the lenders are saying is we don't want to be giving away cheaper interest rates when we're really struggling to make the metrics work on the deals that aren't green, so that's kind of gone by the way. I think it will come back. I'm very, very comfortable with that, but at the moment the lenders have just been so incredibly distracted, just kind of dealing with this tsunami of applications, and it really has been that bad. There are some lenders who are saying if you send us in a bit of paperwork, we're going to take 25 days to even look at it. So they're really busy at the moment.
And are you seeing much new business in general compared with previous years? Because we're tending to find a lot of landlords are selling up, but obviously they're selling to somebody.
Mm.
So, are you finding residential mortgages going up, or are you finding buy-to-let mortgages? I mean, what's the sort of state of the market?
Yeah, I feel like it's massively about remortgages at the moment. There's not a huge amount of purchase transaction. There's probably more buyer activity in the homeowner space. I think a lot of landlords are just sort of waiting for now and just seeing what happens. I think what we're sensing is that a lot of investors are, they've got a little whiff of maybe house prices coming down, and they're wily investors, and so they're kind of just waiting now, sitting it out. I think landlords have a lot of landlords have held off investing over the last really year because the market has been so frothy. There's been gazumping and all the rest of it. And I think for those guys who now the market has quietened down, now there's the possibility of prices coming down a bit. They're just biding their time to see what happens. So we are seeing quite a lot of landlords who are revisiting their portfolio and extracting capital, so they're ready to go.
Right. Yeah.
When and I actually don't necessarily think house prices will go down personally, but there's very many schools of thoughts on this. So there are people readying themselves, but no, so the purchase side of things across the piece is just really super quiet. It's all about remortgaging at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, there was a bit in one of the Sunday papers basically saying, don't think they'll go down, they'll just stagnate because, lack of supply, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But nobody knows. I mean, anyone that's got a crystal ball is going to make a fortune, but or a time machine.
I do think, I don't know, I was thinking about with landlords, and it's just this thing with the interest rates was like another thing, doesn't it, on top of all the other stuff that's going on with landlords. So I think everyone's probably just a bit, oh god, now the interest rates are going up as well. But I think also there's some really positive news in there, isn't there? Like the yields have really been strong over the last 12 months. I mean, I've got a buy to let, and mine hasn't gone up anywhere near as high as what the reports are saying. Maybe it's more of a regional thing, but I think on the whole the yields are going to do well, and I think people are expecting that because first-time buyers will be able to buy properties because of the situation, that's going to increase demand further in the rental market. So actually, I think if you can kind of sort of ride it out over the next kind of 6 months to a year, I think actually probably buy-to-let's a really good place to be.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's have a quick look at no, nothing in the chat box. So if no one's got anything for Jenny, I mean, you're more than welcome to stay on, but I should imagine you're dashing around at the moment, aren't you? So
yeah, I will stay next time, but yeah, I have to crack on. But thank you for having me along, everybody.
No, that's all right. No, thank you so much for coming. So thank you so much for your time.
Take care, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Right. Okay. So what we're going to do now is just quickly, whoops, hang on, go on to, there we go. So I just rearrange my screen. Okay. We're going to talk about the white paper now, if I can get it to work. There it is. Right. Share screen. There we go. Right. Hopefully you can now see my screen okay. What we're talking about here is the white paper. This is what it looks like. Just very quickly, I'll just mention the things that it's proposing, but we do have to stress that politics being politics, no one's got any idea what's happening with the white paper now, because of course we've had a change of ministers, change of prime minister. The minister that actually wrote this, Eddie Hughes, was the levelling up minister, interestingly enough. So don't quite know why he was the one tasked with doing this, not the housing minister. He was overlooked in the reshuffle, so he resigned. As I mentioned, the person we got in charge of the PRS is not a minister, he's a parliamentary under secretary of state. So it's all going to be interesting times, but they were proposing. So at the moment, we have to assume this is what's going to go ahead. So it's proposing to take away the Section 21, periodic only tenancies, the intention to convert all tenancies to periodic, the ability for tenants to give 2 months notice, no special treatment for student landlords, a call to follow the decent home standard, review to the courts and eviction process, property portal, and a new property ombudsman. So let's just to go through those if we can. At any time anyone wants to contribute or shout, please do shout. Right, they're still proposing that they will get rid of the Section 21. We've had a campaign going since before Christmas now, so they're coming up for a year, where we're basically trying to say is if you do get rid of Section 21, just beware of the unintended consequences. And what we're concerned about with the unintended consequences is that a tenant in future, this is after they get rid of it, a tenant will find it more difficult to find an offer in the future unless they've got impeccable references and a very good background. We're also concerned that there will be a bit of a clear out of tenants. We've had this mentioned to us already that one or two landlords are already getting rid of those tenants which they've been a bit iffy about over the last few years. But this is before we know what's happening with the Section 21. We are recommending that some form of no fault notice, whether it's a Section 21 or a renamed Section 99, don't know, but we are recommending that a new notice be brought in, which is a same sort of thing, a no fault notice. But we agree that it's unfair that where a tenant's been in a property for a long period of time, they're given the same period of notice, i.e. 2 months. So we're recommending two things: a sliding scale of notice for longer term tenants, and where they've been in the property for quite some time, that could be 6, 7, 8 months if necessary. We're also recommending a financial recompense for longer term tenants, whereby the longer term tenants would get the last 2 months rent free, which would allow them the money to be able to look at other properties and to be able to find the moving costs, plus the problem that a lot of tenants have, especially when they've been there a long time, the problem with finding the deposit. Because if the outgoing landlord takes a while to return the deposit or sort the deposit out, the tenant's going to need to find an incoming deposit as well. So this we think for longer term tenants would help them. So the other thing that is being suggested in the white paper is the loss really of the assured short-term tenancy, that it would not be possible, or that's been recommended in the white paper, that it will not be possible to issue a fixed-term tenancy, and that all tenancy agreements will be periodic only. And that is also being suggested after probably 12 months after this new law comes in, if it comes in, that all existing tenancy would be converted to be periodic. So there would be no fixed term tenancies. Now, the two areas where this would have a big effect, one is student landlords, and I'll come on to talk about that in a minute, and the other one is where at the moment you must have a fixed term tenancy of 6 months or more, followed by contractual tenancy, contractual periodic tenancy, not statutory periodic tenancy. If you haven't got that, the landlord might be liable for the council tax. So we've pointed this out. That would be fairly easy to rectify. They would have to amend the Finance Act, which I'm sure could be done. So we wait and see. Basically, in the Finance Act, it states that an interested party is responsible for the council tax, and an interested party is stated as someone that's got a fixed term of 6 months or more, followed by contractual periodic. So moving on, the other matter that is being recommended is that the tenant can give 2 months notice at any time. And also that the Section 8 grounds 8, 10 and 11, which is rent arrears, will increase from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. But again, we wait and see. Ground 1 is a ground that's there already, which is it allows for someone to sell a property, but it's really, really difficult to use. Ground 1 can only be used at the moment is if the landlord has previously lived in the property and has also given notice to a prospective new tenant that they may wish to sell in the future, which virtually never happens. I was discussing this with our solicitors a while ago, and I said to them, have they ever done a ground 1? No, never, because it's just so difficult to use. So the government will almost certainly amend ground 1 quite substantially to allow it to be used where the landlord wishes to redevelop a property or sell the property, and or for the landlord or for the landlord's family to move in. We assume that all of that would need proof. So, you can't just simply say, I'm going to redevelop it and then not redevelop it. We're not at all sure what proof will be needed for the redevelopment bit. Probably, again, we are guessing on this one, by the way, for the sale, it will be necessary to give proof that you actually do have it on the market to sell. And probably, if you use a ground 1 to evict a tenant, and then you subsequently change your mind, I would imagine you won't be able to re-let it for a period of time using ground 1, but we don't know. And ditto landlord or the family to move in. So, we just don't know with any of this. Come on, change, thank you. We're being told that there will be no special treatment for student landlords, apart from any landlords where they've got purpose-built accommodation. Now, we have had a conversation, as I said, we had a conversation with the department last week where we're basically saying, why are you not making any sort of allowances for student landlords apart from where it's purpose built? And they I felt they tripped themselves up a little bit, in as much as they're saying, well, with non-purpose built, the property could be used for absolutely anything. Therefore, it should be subject to what they consider to be normal rules, i.e. periodic tenancies only, and for the tenant to be allowed to give a 2 months notice. Their reasoning on the purpose built was that quite often it can only be used for students. However, we're aware, and particularly in Brighton, where they've got purpose built blocks which are being used for other purposes. So we did get the feeling that they were more likely to move on student landlords than they were on anything else. Also, there's a call to use the decent home standard. Decent home standard at the moment only applies to social property, social lettings, and it's extremely vague. But it is also being consulted on. The consultation will finish on October the 14th. So what we're calling for is the findings of the consultation to be made available before they make it that all landlords have to follow the decent home standard. They're also proposing to review the court procedure. We are recommending to them that they have a service level agreement on the court procedure, i.e. at the moment, if a landlord is asked to do something by the court and he or she fails to do it, then he or she can get fined. But if the court is supposed to do something within a period of time, it's just ignored. So we're suggesting there should be a service level agreement. I can't see that happening, but you know, one can only ask. There is the suggestion of a property portal, and on that portal will be everything that the landlord and the tenant needs to do to let a property. So it'll be pretty similar to the website that we put out at the moment. It is suggested that the what do you call the thing? The rogue landlords database, sorry, the rogue landlords database would also be on there. And somehow or another, because we also stated, well, at the moment, the EPC is on a database which is available to absolutely everybody, but the gas is not. Why is that not? And they picked that one up, and yes, they think it's a good idea. And also electrical should be on a database which is available to everybody. The suggestion is all that will go onto the property portal. So, you know, we wait to see what's going to happen there. There will be a new property ombudsman, and all landlords will have to belong to this property ombudsman, as pretty much as the agents have to at the moment. The only thing we've questioned is there are 2 property ombudsmen at the moment. Why do we need a 3rd one? So be aware you will have to almost certainly belong to a property ombudsman. It's also recommending only annual rent increases, and that you will not be allowed to use a rent review clauses. So we're assuming that this means you will only be able to increase rents either by mutual agreement with the landlord and the tenant, or by using a Section 13 notice, which you can use at the moment. It's mentioned passported deposits, but we've got absolutely no idea what they mean by this. I mean, the theory is great in that what the theory is that a tenant can have a problem, as I already mentioned, at the end of a let, where the deposit takes a while to come back. So the tenant have to find 2 deposits for a period of time. What the government have recommended is some mechanism whereby it can be passported from the old tenancy to the new one. But that's all they said. We've got absolutely no idea what they meant by that. It was in the Queen's speech originally, and it appeared to die a bit of a death because no one had any idea as to how this could come about. We've talked about some kind of insurance, but as Steve will tell you, that it's, you know, you can't. We've looked at insurance on deposits before, but it's really, really complicated to do. And I'm going to invite Steve on in a minute to make any comments on that if he wants to. But because it's always the tenant's money that we're talking about in the case of a deposit, and so even if you take on even if you agree to take on an insurance, like pets, it can't be renewed. You can't insist on it being renewed at the end. And they're talking about amending the Tenants Fees Act to allow for charging of pets insurance, but there's all sorts of problems with pets insurance. One, the insurance that you get at the moment isn't really, I'm sure Steve will leap on this one, isn't really fit for purpose, because it will allow for things such as a pet knocking something over, but it won't allow for the usual problem that you want to cover, which is a pet causing problems with chewing or scratching or weeing in the corner or something like that. Also, come on, it's won't allow in the future, won't allow a ban on benefits or pets or families. So, Steve, do you want to come in at that stage just to comment on the pets insurance and the potential?
Yeah, no worries at all. Yeah, I think you've covered everything there. Just by the way, Steve from Alan Boswell's here, by the way. You've covered it all there in that the passport deposits. Obviously, it would need to be any insurance policy needs to be in the name of the landlord. So it's tricky to arrange a policy in the name of somebody else. So couldn't be arranged in the name of the tenant. And the pet insurance, exactly what Peter said in that it's not designed for wear and tear damage. If things happen over a period of time, that's not going to be covered. If it's a one-off event, then that's what the insurance is there for. As in any insurance, it's always a one-off event rather than over a period of time. And also, as Peter said, he said it all. I tell you, in that the insurance would have to be in the landlord's name. If it's in the tenant's name, there's the tenant can take it out for the first year, and there's no guarantee that they'll renew the policy after that first year. So it's a tricky situation, but that's how it is. But I'll leave that with you, Peter.
Okay, right. So as you're saying, what you're saying there is with the pets insurance is you can't insure someone else's property, in this case, a pet. So whilst you can insist that they do have pet insurance on day one, you can't insist that they renew it. And also you have to question, what use is it anyway at the moment, whether or not a new pet insurance comes out. I don't know. What do you think, Steve? Do you think it'll be a new pet insurance?
It's a possibility. It's possible. Obviously, as things get agreed and finalised, then we will always speak to insurers to see if there's any way around it. So we've got Aviva's here. We've got the insurance companies here. They do listen to us. So if we have to put anything to them, fingers crossed they will come up with something. So if it all gets agreed and we have to do something. So yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Some other things that we're proposing that not in the white paper, which some kind of property MOT, which would go along we feel with the decent home standard. So they were quite keen on that one. We would like to see some kind of tenant's passport. Can't see that happening. So also a big problem. I'd be interested to know if anyone's got this particular problem. It seems to be a real problem in Portsmouth, which is where, and it also seems to rear its ugly head in Brighton as well to a certain extent, where individual rooms can be classed as council tax band A, which puts the tenants' costs up, charges up. If the new decent home standard, which we don't know what it's going to be, and there's a property MOT, we would like to see the stop to the wholesale licensing of properties. We'll wait and see with that. And we would have liked to have seen some kind of process for abandoned properties, which was brought in with the 2016 Act, but then was dropped again because they couldn't get it to work. So we're basically saying, be careful, get good references. Steve will get those for you. If you do need to get a guarantor, reference them. Again, Steve can do that for you. Don't let arrears build up before chasing them. I'm just amazed how often on the helpline, people have allowed arrears to go on for quite some time before they chase them. Antisocial behaviour is becoming more and more of a problem, and again, you need to keep on top of that one. And when we had to go,
can I jump in, Peter, just on that bit about arrears building up? Obviously, we have a rent guarantee policy. We go into rent guarantee insurance, and I think the deal is in the terms and conditions, in that everything needs to be chased on a regular basis. Everything needs to be within the first 7 days. We need to be advised if the tenant hasn't paid. Just let us know. Drop the tenant an email, whatever. But just just keep us informed, keep the insurance company informed, and keep the tenant informed that they haven't paid. So yeah, just dialogue. That's all it is. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Steve. So if you look on our website, you will see a set of pro forma letters and a pro forma situation to follow. So as Steve says, please do not ignore it. Definitely do not ignore it. And as Steve is saying there, make sure you document everything. But going back to the antisocial behaviour, if I can do just for a moment. So it's really, really important that you deal with antisocial behaviour. When we were discussing this with the department last week, this is our biggest concern with the loss of the Section 21, because the Section 8 is not really very good when it comes to antisocial behaviour, because you've got to have an awful lot of proof. And it seems to flip from being almost impossible to evict someone using a Section 8 to very, very easy. And it's very, very easy when they've been prosecuted and they've got an actual case against them. Then it's easier to evict them. So do be careful about antisocial behaviour. Do keep on top of it. So, make sure you document everything and make sure that you continue to be professional. So that's a quick whiz through. Just get rid of that. That's a quick whiz through on everything to do with the white paper. Any questions at all? I mean, this is a very, very, very quick one. I'm going to repeat. We do not, although the civil servants we were talking to last week are very much working on the assumption that the white paper will still go through. Nobody knows. The final decision is not the civil servants. The civil servants are there to advise. The actual decision on whether it goes ahead is down to the ministers, and we don't know at the moment. We've got new ministers, we've got a new prime minister, so we wait and see. So any comments at all from anybody, or anybody got any questions? No questions in the chat box. Goodbye for all of you.